Hello everybody, this is Curve, and you might be wondering, wait, that's your voice? I've never heard that before. Trust me, yes you have, and it's a very regrettable decision that I made. So today, we'll be playing the original Yakuza for the PS2, or more accurately, the Japanese-only remaster for the first two games on the PS3. Now, as you may know, I cannot speak Japanese. None of my videos are in Japanese, so I cannot understand a single thing this game says. But that doesn't matter because I have basic ability to punch things. So in this video, I'll be going through all the bosses and some mini-boss kind of things. You know, the definition of a boss is kind of subjective when it comes to this kind of game. But I'll be doing all of those, and this is a kind of, sort of like, I'm on the edge of my seats videos in all these games. I'm going to be doing more of these eventually, probably. But, you know, I'm going to be doing my own flair to this. As you can see already, this is not no damage like his videos. I'm not good enough at these games, especially this kind of game for the PS2. The combat in this game is very dated and clunky, which is why a lot of people don't play it, I think. And, you know, especially since, you know, the Kiwami remakes for this game and for 2 as well. And you can see coming up here just a second, how the hell does this hit me? I am way off, but the game just decides that I get hit because this game, as I said, very dated. This game came out in 2005. They were just starting to make this kind of game. You know, this is the first Yakuza game, of course, so they didn't have anything to pull from in terms of the brawler games like this. So, you know, there's some stuff that really doesn't happen in modern games in this series that they were, you know, testing out because it was the first try. So this fight right here is going to go by really quickly. As you can see, it doesn't have a really big health bar. This guy's called Punk-Ass Abe. Or, more accurately, it'd be Abe because this is Japan. But, you know, Punk-Ass Abe just rolls off the tongue, so I decided to include him. One of the biggest criticisms about Yakuza 1 is that once you start attacking, you are stuck attacking in the same direction. And I'm so glad that they fixed that in Yakuza 2, sorta. Because they made it to where you have, you know, Komaki Reversal is what it's called, where you can attack behind you after you start attacking in front. Now, they changed this after Yakuza 2, or I think after Kenzan. I just started playing Kenzan. I'm gonna make a video like this on Kenzan, but, you know, I barely have any knowledge of that game so far. But I think starting in Yakuza 3, they made it to where you can sort of shift your angle mid-combo, and I think that was a pretty necessary change because you can really feel the lack of that in this combat. So here's Yuya, and he's pretty much the first real boss in this game, because the other guys, you know, the inmate was like a tutorial sorta, and Abe, or Abe, was just a random goon with a slightly chunky health bar. This guy has an actual boss health bar. And he actually, I think, in this game, has a mid-fight QTE. I could be wrong about that. This game, I think, is pretty sparing on its QTEs. But I know that Yuya has a QTE in Kiwami. It's, I think, the Kiwami, or not Kiwami, Zero, get-up heat action that you have in Brawler style. Wait, no, not the get-up one. I think it's the, square, 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 triangle, triangle heat action that you get in Brawler style in Zero, but I could be wrong about that. I'd have to go look. So you may notice that I've been in the settings for like 20 seconds now, and for some reason, I just decided to stay in the menu for like a minute straight mid-fight. Like, what the fuck? I'm recording, why did I do this? Back to the actual fight, and is it just me, or does this attack look like Kanai's main attack from Yakuza 5? Then this motherfucker just straight up belly flops on you, and I just realized that this is a losing attempt. Fuck! Back to the real attempt. You'll see me do this grab combo a lot, because it is really, really good in this game. Like, it can infinite bosses. I don't use it all the time to infinite bosses, but for some of the really bad ones, I do, just to get it out of the way. For some reason, grabs in this game can be almost impossible to mash out of. I have no idea why, but it's really, really annoying, and I hate it. And, like, look here, this dude does a grab mid-combo. Like, what? You're not supposed to do that? Oh, trust me, it gets worse. It gets way worse with the grabs. You'll see coming up. At least, like, in response to their grab spam, you can do some grab spam of your own. And like in general, you can kind of just mash on bosses in this game. And in Yakuza 2 as well. Just the PS2 games are very simplistic, so you can get away with just mashing on bosses. They don't have a lot of anti-mash options against you. So you'll kind of see me do that for most of this video. There's not really strategy too much in this video, as much as it is pressing buttons on the PS4 controller. So this is one of the first group fights in this game, and boy does Yakuza 1 love its group fights. It gets pretty bad in this game. Like, I think, you know, the Yakuza series tended to stray away from group fights all the time past this game, and then Yakuza 2 a little bit. But for some reason, like, I just played Judgment and Lost Judgment, and those games really, really love their group fights. It can get pretty bad. Like, it's worse than this game. Maybe worse. Here we have the walking boss fight. Now, you may be wondering, wait a minute, I don't remember having to walk for a boss fight. Well, yeah, probably because you didn't play the original Yakuza 1. For some reason, this walking section to infiltrate the Tojo clan headquarters is stupidly hard because the guards that are watching out for you have eyes on the back of their goddamn heads. Like, I swear, I am surprised these guys didn't say, "Do not be afraid," with how many eyes these guys must have. Like, this section is not nearly as bad as it is here as it was in Kiwami. Like, I don't know what they did to make it bearable in Kiwami, but people deserve to know about the suffering that goes on here in the original game. I'm speeding this footage up. This is not real time, as you probably noticed. This took me well over 3 minutes just to get past this one section. This was stupidly hard. Never make me do this ever again, please. Alright, this guy is a pretty nothing fight. I don't have much to say about it other than the fact that now we have the sequel to opening the menu for a way too long mid-fight. I'm just gonna cut this out, and really I don't have much else to say about this guy. He gets a Kiwami finisher in Kiwami, so I guess that means he's a boss. I guess while I have time, since I'm not really gonna say anything more about this guy, I will say, I will not be doing the Amon fights for this game and Yakuza 2, and probably also Kenzen, because I don't want to do all the sub-stories for games that I cannot read. Even then, I'm pretty sure, like, the original Joamon for Yakuza 1 is, like, extremely hard, so I would not want to put myself through that. I am sorry. But for the rest of the games, all of them that are on PC, I can just download a 100% save file and get the Amon fights then. Alright, here we have the big man Shimano. Now, I hate to say it, but this guy is just a joke. Like, if you remember the Kiwami version of Shimano, that was piss easy because he was just copying Shakedown's moveset. Well now, or I say then, back in the original game, it was even pisser easier, because remember when I said that you could just spam bosses? I meant spam like, you can kind of just throw combos at them whenever you get an opening, but for Shimano, there is always an opening. You can just hit him and he will take it. He's not gonna do anything. Like, wow, this guy is like so big and beefy. Like, you are scared of this man when you first see him. But he is just a complete cakewalk, and I think that's really bad. I wish he was a lot harder. He deserves to be a lot harder. But like, hold on, listen to this music though. And I even had an unintentional music sync earlier. Yakuza games tend to do that for some reason. But like, hold on, listen to this. Shimano's theme sounds like something I'd expect to hear in a COD Black Ops 1 Zombies music Easter egg. It's crazy. Okay, this fight. This is yet another group fight, and for some reason, these are just like goons, but one of them decides to have a boss health bar. These are the guys who throw the rock at that one dog. Who actually decides to do that? Like, how do you have to be so low that you decide to throw rocks at stray dogs? These guys deserve to have their faces punched in. Other than that, this is a pretty unremarkable quote-unquote boss fight. But I will say, I don't know why, this one guy's shirt says fart. Like, what? Why would you actively wear something that says fart on it? Why do you want to display that to the entire city? I don't know what goes through this guy's head. For some reason, he wants to throw rocks at stray dogs though, so I don't know what's wrong with him. But as I said, this is just another Yakuza 1 branded group fight. I don't have anything to say about this, really. I think this is around the time in one of my other videos where I'd pull out the explosion effect. I don't know if I have that. I'll see if I can find it. Okay, let's... Alright, here's Hayashi. There's a lot to talk about with Hayashi, but, basically, this guy starts out with a big group fight. Wow. Who saw that coming? But once you get rid of the guys, he's a pretty interesting fight. He has this really annoying spin attack that he does, which is completely invulnerable. And, invulnerability gets worse later on. You'll see in a boss fight coming up where I complain about it so much because it's bad. This guy has, like, a crazy glow-up from this game to Yakuza 2. This fight is just kind of meh. But in Yakuza 2, it's one of the best fights in that game, and for some reason, he has, like, more health, or maybe the same, but the same or more health than the final boss, which is crazy. But, I suppose I should address the elephant in the room. This fight, this very recording right now, sparked one of the greatest things that I've ever created, being 2013 Hayashi combo, which, if you have not seen that, first of all, go watch it, but if you don't want to for some reason, which you should, but basically, what it is an MLG edited version of this video, this recording, which I decided to do because I thought it'd be really funny, and I also have a soft spot for the MLG era of the internet. I beat the last Goon, so I'll actually play a side-by-side of 2013 Hayashi combo in this, just so you can see it. Okay, here we have the Coliseum fights, and these first two suck ass! They, like, okay, so, see, this guy wombo combos me, and does the stupid ass, mid-combo grab, and secondly, like, I can't even grab this guy to either do the infinite or do a heat action to get some extra damage to make my suffering end quicker, and, like, and even at the end here, he does the stupid invincible spin that you can't challenge at all. I'm so glad that they got rid of that in future games, but I hate this. So, in the making of some of these, I'll be playing some of these Yakuza games for the first time. Specifically this one and 2, the originals at least. I played the Kiwami versions. Kenzen, Dead Souls, because yeah, I'm going to be doing Dead Souls at some point. Kuriho 2. I've played Kuriho 1, but not 2. And I think Ishin twice, because it's getting the remake. I'm super excited for that. Okay, here's the second Coliseum fight, and this guy is a lot more manageable than Feldman was. That dude, yeah, I hate that guy. This guy, you know, he's got some annoying stuff to him, like, you know, his grab does damage to you during the grab before you even mash out, but in return, you can mash out of his grabs a lot easier than you can a lot of other grabs in this game. He has this flying knee attack, which is kind of annoying to deal with, but you'll see at the end of this fight something that is really bad that I don't even know how it made it into this game. I don't know if this is an emulator issue because I'm playing this on an emulator, or if it's just in the game and people who played this game when it first came out had to deal with it. But you'll see at the end here, because and it's not even just him. It's other bosses that do this too. You'll see. You can also see that with a boss this nimble, the linear attacking system in this game can really be a bitch when you're trying to hit someone who's flying around all over the place. And once again, that's a Yakuza 1 issue. That's just something that they had to test out. They thought it was going to be okay, and it wasn't. But boo-hoo, it's their first try, so they fixed it in the later games. But you'll see here, this motherfucker does a teleport grab, teleports me right into his loving embrace. How did this make it into the final game? This is not how you make a game. I'm so glad that they fixed this. I think this is no longer in Yakuza 2, because I've played Yakuza 2 already, and I don't remember it being in that game. But for this game, what the fuck? Okay, so here's Gary Buster Holmes. This is easily the most tolerable of all the Coliseum fights. And it's actually a lot harder than his Kiwami version. Because in his Kiwami version, he only has 1 health bar, but here he has 1.5 health bars. I do notice that generally in this game, health bars are a lot lower. Like, even the final boss, I think, only has, like, maybe 3. They changed that in Yakuza 2, but it's kind of weird here. You know, speaking of Kiwami version of Gary Buster Holmes, in Kiwami, he's actually copying the final boss of Yakuza 5. At least here, he has an original moveset. That is it for praise for the original Yakuza 1 Gary Buster Holmes. Because, take one look at this guy. He got a much-needed glow-up from this game to Kiwami. He's a good-looking fella in Kiwami, but in this game, he looks like Shrek's forgotten human cousin. It's horrible. Like, I don't know what they were thinking when they made this model. I feel so bad for this guy. Like, as I said, at least they fixed him in coming into Kiwami. Yikes. Majima here is tricky. He's very dodgy like he is in some of the other games, but I think he's more so dodgy here. It's really bad here. In standard OG Yakuza 1 fashion, he starts out in a big group. I think it's also worth noting that I think only in this HD remaster version of Yakuza 1, the baseballs come flying out of the pitchers in the back. I don't think that's in the original version. I think that's pretty neat. I think you can do a heat action over there, but I don't actually end up doing that, sadly. So as I said, Majima's very dodgy, so I have some trouble hitting him at first. But at the end of the fight, I actually figure out that if you get him into a corner, you can full combo him, and he'll dodge some of the hits, but then you can just do another combo, and it kind of just negates the whole dodgy factor of him. It kind of reminds me of like wall bounding in Yakuza 6 with extreme heat mode, where you can kind of just get an enemy up against a wall, go into extreme heat mode, and just keep punching over and over again until you get the heat action, which does a ton of damage. You know, speaking of Yakuza 6, I really don't like Yakuza 6. It's not going to be fun having to do that game, but oh well. I have to give it another shot, though, because I've played it a single time, and I feel like I need to give it another chance, because there are aspects of Yakuza 6 that I like, but there's also a lot that I really don't like. But why am I talking about Yakuza 6? Majima's not even in that game. So I try to end him off here with a baseball bat heat action, but I fuck it up and I don't actually end up doing it, so I just hit him with the baseball bat to end the fight. One of the problems with this game is that most of its boss fights are like no-name one-offs. So there's not a lot of memorable fights in this game. And, you know, people like Takashi do not help. This guy is barely a boss. He has sort of story relevance, because this guy is the florist's son. He's got this really annoying, like, overhead bop with the bat. And this brings me to another one of my biggest problems with this game. Is enemies sometimes have these completely invincible attacks. Like, you've seen it with the Daniel Feldman and the Hayashi spin attack. But those are not exclusive. No. A lot of bosses have invincible attacks just for no reason. And I think there's no better example of that than this guy here, the Bee King. He has the invincible headbutt attack that just ruins your day, so you can't hit him. And he also has this sweep kick, which you could probably see here, which interrupts your combos mid-combo. Oh, I hate this guy. And, like, I think in another fight later, he joins you as your ally, but I don't care. This guy sucks. And he's after Takashi, too, which is not doing him any favors. We have one shitty fight after another, but this one's extra shitty. I think it's also worth noting that in Kiwami, B-King copies Shinada from Yakuza 5. RGG loves copying their movesets. Granted, this game, you can't copy any movesets because there were no movesets to copy from. This is the first game. So at a certain point, I just have enough of this guy's shit, and I start hitting him with the infinite grab combo. Yeah, this is really the first point where I start abusing the grab combo, because I need to. I don't want to deal with this guy anymore. So this guy here has a very unfortunate name, being Shota. Imagine if somebody in America was named CP, except the acronym is fully spelled out. And by that I mean cheese pizza. Yeah, cheese pizza. You know, speaking of acronyms, I think the most versatile acronym is DP. Because DP can stand for so many different things. Dr. Pepper, Dragon Punch, Dark Pit, Double Penetrate. So really, I only included this guy because you fight him alongside Date, and also this is where the door kicking scene is from. So I think that's pretty awesome. So I know I said that I included this because you fight alongside Date, but Date is kinda useless in this fight. I mean, he can distract some of the goons from going after you at first, but you know, once you get down to just the boss, he kinda doesn't do anything. He's got these really slow kicks that don't hit most of the time. So in the end, it's mostly just you finishing off the boss, and he's just there. Okay, these are the gambling people, and really, I don't have too much to say about this fight. I do know that in the Kiwami version of this fight, one of the guard guys, not the guy who's half naked, one of the guards actually copies Joji Kazuma's moveset from Yakuza 3. I have a lot to say about Joji Kazuma, but you'll hear that from me when we get to Yakuza 3. Well, this is another case of Yakuza 1/Kiwami just having a lot of nothing fights in relation to the actual big boss fights. Compared to Zero, Zero has, you know, a lot of big grand one-on-one fights. And I think one of the biggest tells of that is the fact that Yakuza Kiwami only has one dynamic intro, which is Nishiki, of course, but I'm surprised that they really only had one. There was some potential with the other ones, but of course Nishiki's going to have one. But I think there could have been at least a few others, but that's a Kiwami issue. It has a lot of those. Even if it did have a couple more dynamic intros, it probably still would have a lot less than Zero. That's simply because there are not that many notable fights. But back to talking about the fight. This guy's about to go down. He's not that hard. I do the infinite on him. I miss a grab, but it's fine, and that's it. Remember when I said that Hayashi was the biggest glow-up from Yakuza 1 to 2? This guy comes in a close second. As you may know, Shindo has a completely awesome fight in Yakuza 2, but this fight is kind of just... A lot of these guys have weapons, and especially in the original Yakuza 1, you're not very well equipped to deal with a big group that has weapons. I think it's a shame because I just was talking about how this game is devoid of like actual big boss fights, and Shindo is a guy that is actually kind of important because, you know, he's part of the Nishiki family and he's, you know, fighting for Nishiki. But he's a sword user. It's not nearly as bad in Yakuza 2, but the Yakuza 2 fight, that's like this big expansive fight throughout the entire Tojo clan. As far as strategy goes, as with most other fights in this game, I don't really have one. I kind of just beat on him, and then once I get into red health, I do the ground pound heat action, which that heat action is really good. I think it gets even better in Yakuza 2, but it's really good the way it is now. You can probably tell by now, but I really don't have that many skills for this game. You know, a lot of the ones that you need from like Kamaki and whatnot. I cannot be bothered to do the side content in a game that I cannot read. And the same thing goes for 2 and Kenzan. Because, surprise, surprise, halfway through making this video, I actually went and played the entirety of Kenzan. And, that game was alright. It was kind of just like a big tech demo for really beautiful feudal Japan scenery. That is one thing I will give Kenzan. That game is beautiful for coming out in, what, 2007, 2008? That game is really pretty. But yeah, from this game through Kenzan, I won't have very many upgrades because I can't read the game, and I can't be bothered to go find a guy to get me to all the upgrades. That will change Yakuza 3 onwards though, because those games are all on PC. So, I can download a 100% save file to get everything. Once we do get to Yakuza 3 onwards, the fights themselves will probably be a little bit more visually striking, impressive, because I'll actually have a lot to work with and I'll know how to use it to make a somewhat cool fight. Because for now, it's kind of just punch the guy over there simulator. But then it becomes fancy punching the guy over there simulator. I hate this fight! This thing took me like 20 minutes and I hated every single second of it. So the big guy with the boss health bar has the same moveset as G. Pramuk in the Coliseum, except way worse because not only does he have more health, but he also has a gang of just random goons with weapons. And I spawned in this fight with like half health, right? And from Yakuza 1 all the way, I think, until Yakuza 4, you can't heal after you die. You don't get a full refill upon death. And that is awful. Why? Literally every other game I know does that. Why don't they do that here? Ah! You know, recently I played Judgment and Lost Judgment, and minor spoiler warning if you haven't played either of those games, but I'm really only going to be talking about Lost Judgment. Both of those games have a problem where they have way too many group fights, and this kind of reminds me of one specifically from Lost Judgment, where it's just an absolutely massive group where you have Sugiura, Kaito, and Higashi there with you, but only Higashi actually fights with you. Sugiura goes up to fight at like the top, and Kaito is just standing there doing nothing. And alongside the absolutely massive group, there's a boss who is copying Pipe Kuze from Yakuza 0, and it's awful and I hate it, and I don't know why this is like a major plot point, but at least in that game you have really good options for dealing with groups. This game, you don't have any of that. You're kind of just on your own here. and plus in that fight you also had a partner with you to fight. So remember how in the last fight I said that I used the ground pound heat action because it's really good? Well, in this fight it's pretty much just a crutch because it's really broken and I just have to use it to get through this. You'll see here, he does another teleport grab! Yeah, that got carried over from the same Coliseum moveset. But you'll see, again, the ground pound heat action does quite a bit of damage. But as I said, does a whole lot more in Yakuza 2. It clears an entire health bar. And for one fight in particular in Yakuza 2, I really have to use it. Once again, you'll see when we get to Yakuza 2. One more ground pound and this guy's almost out, and then just another hit and it'll be done. So here's the Akai brothers, and these are I don't know, they're weird. So the little guy is copying the same exact Coliseum moveset that I was complaining about in the last fight, except it seems a little bit less annoying here. And the big guy, I don't even know what he's copying, if he's copying anything at all. I think it's the same way in Kiwami, where he's kind of just copying his own thing, which makes him spam drop kicks for some reason. And the little guy in Kiwami is actually copying Majima's breaker moveset, which, okay, makes him a bitch to hit because he constantly does the get up attack, but sure. This is technically a group fight, but luckily the goons have such tiny health bars that you can just get rid of them very quickly. Still doesn't change the fact that you're fighting two bosses at once, but it's sorta easy to just pick off one at a time. Oh, and I actually found out while recording these lines for this video, the Kiwami version of the big guy, the one that does all the drop kicks, is actually a moveset that I believe is from one of the mini-bosses that you fight in the last long battle of Yakuza 0, which makes sense because 0 and Kiwami are the same engine. Speaking of moveset reuse in Kiwami, that game has a lot of moveset reuse. It's really bad. Like, it and Kiwami 2 are really the worst offenders. None of the games really are innocent, but the Kiwami remakes, those tend to be very bad. Like, one example I know of is Joji Kazuma. So, the guy, the big bodyguard in the gambling hall, that guy copies Joji. I know that Kashiwagi in 0 actually copies Joji mostly. I think he has a couple original moves, but he's mostly just Joji in the Yakuza 0 engine with super armor, so he's a bitch to hit. And also Nishiki. Nishiki copies a couple of Joji's moves, but he also copies some of his other moves from Yakuza 0, which I can't really fault them for that, because it's the same character. Granted, like, almost 20 years apart. But I can see how they would use some of Nishiki's moves from his 0 boss fight in the Kiwami final boss. But he's kind of just a mashup of the 0 version of his fight and Joji. Oh, and I know I said about Kashiwagi from 0, but he's actually in one of the Kiwami climax battles. He doesn't have a huge health bar, but he's there, and he's reusing his moveset, which is Joji. Now, it makes sense for these people to be copying it, because Kashiwagi was, like, the captain or whatever of the Kazuma family. And, of course, Nishiki is Kiryu's sworn brother, and they were both raised by Kazuma. And, you know, Joji is Shintaro Kazuma's brother. So, it's within the realm of possibility that they would fight similarly to each other, especially considering that they're twins. I got a little sidetracked there, but I kind of just full comboed the big guy like I did with Shimano. Yeah, that's like sort of a consistent theme with the big enemies in this game. You can just wail on their block and they just die. As for the little guy here, he's a slippery little bastard, and I kind of just hit him and then he dies eventually. That's really all I can say in terms of strategy for every single one of the bosses in this video, as you've probably seen so far. Alright, I hate this motherfucker. So at first, I just don't let him breathe at all. He runs up, and I have a knife from the previous room. I completely whiff the first combo, and then I just start kind of beating his shit in with it. Knife breaks, and here's where I just fuck him up. Then this motherfucker teleports and grabs me, G-Promic style, and that just disrupts my whole flow, and then he starts fucking me up. I hate it. Luckily, at first, I get the ground pound heat action because I'm at low health, and, you know, takes a good chunk of his health away, but it gets him under his first health bar, so now he goes into a second phase with the swords. You know, as much as I don't like this fight, it's still not as bad as the one in Yakuza 3. I really can't say too much about this fight, other than the fact that I just kind of fuck him up, and he does some really stupid shit, like teleport grabs and instant heat actions, and not to mention the dumbass invincibility move that all the bosses in this game have for some reason. This is getting towards the end of the game. There's only like 5 more big boss fights I have after this. You may be able to see that if I have chapters or timestamps or whatever. But I think that the final couple boss fights, aside from one, are really good. And, you know, highlights of this game. And I'll have a lot more positives to say about those than I will for Lau Kalong here. Kiryu, watch out, Arase's a low-level player. He's gonna do a wake-up super! So here's Arase, and as you may be able to see, I entered this fight with no health. Luckily, there's a healing item all the way in the back, so I just go into the menu and pop that. Brings me to like a third of my health. But because I'm so low, I actually have to use some kind of strategy here. So after I go and get that healing item and use it, I go to the back here, just hang around there. Because these AC unit things, they help me avoid Arase's gunfire. Because yes, Arase is a gun boss. Very fun. So I just pick off the goons that he's got, because this is Yakuza 1. Every boss has to have goons with them. And then I can deal with the boss proper. So I can't really bound this guy in the corner like I can with Majima, because he has this invincible dodge roll that gets him out of the way. I remember this guy being a lot more annoying than it looks. I don't know why, but he doesn't actually seem too bad. He has a lot of openings that you can exploit with his like long gun moves, which I think they slapped this straight onto Richardson in Yakuza 3. I don't know. They're both gun bosses, so I can see it. Otherwise, this guy, he's fairly straightforward. If you know the story around this guy, like in the actual game, it's really sad. But yeah, this guy wasn't actually too bad, and he's actually, I think, one of the better bosses in this game. Fun fact, this guy actually comes back in Yakuza 3, so I guess the parallels with him and Richardson are actually warranted. I think I tried to end the fight off using the metal tray thing, do something smart with it, but I don't actually end up doing that. I just kind of finish him off with a heat action. And here we have the second fight with Majima. I actually do use the bounding technique in the corner again, but not in my winning attempt. I actually use it to greatest effect in my first attempt, where I actually lost in the second phase. You'll see that it actually works quite effectively. I almost got an entire health bar out of just bounding him in that corner. But once you go to the second phase, I don't like this quite as much because it's really dark, first of all. I mean, yeah, it's the underground area of a building, so of course it's not going to have lights down there, but come on, it can be kind of hard to see from like a gameplay standpoint. I hold the opinion that the Majima fights really didn't get good until Yakuza 3. I think the Yakuza 1 ones, you know, they aren't that great. That's mostly because of the old Yakuza 1 combat. you know, very clunky and all that. It doesn't work well with Majima's swiftness. And you can say the same thing for Yakuza 2, though I think it's a little bit less bad there. But I think, like, the real offender, the Majima fight in Kenzan. I hate that fight so much. It sucked ass. Ah! But we'll get there when we get there. Ooh boy, Shimano 2. I've got a lot to say about this fight, and it's probably one of my favorite ones in this game. I really like this fight. You know, it does the whole big, like, clash between families thing. With, you know, the Shimano family and the Kazuma family and that and whatnot. As you can see, Shimano starts out with a sword. And that's really my only big complaint about this fight, is that while he has the sword, he is way too aggro. So I'm just trying to pick off his goons because it's a Yakuza 1 boss fight. It's gotta have goons. So I'm trying to get rid of those guys, and he's just on my ass 24/7, not even paying attention to all the other guys that I have on my team. And he's just going after me. But luckily, I think in this game, the sword breaks a lot faster than it does in Kiwami. So, yeah, I think the sword, it's about to break already. And after he breaks his sword, he goes back to the Shimano 1 fighting style. So, unfortunately, that's when he becomes extremely easy to fight again, because you can just wail on his block and then it'll break and you'll kill him because he's weak. But I still think, apart from that, that's really the only big issue I have with this fight. I really like it. It's still got the kick-ass track Pray Me from the first fight, which it better because that fight, or that track, is awesome. So for the most part, I'm just trying to throw these goons down and finish them off with a heat action. Some of them have really big health bars. Oh, and this QTE mid-fight, it's so awkward because, like, if you complete it, there's, like, no sound at all. And I don't get it, because this is a pier. Where is that car going? How is there a car that comes in at the exact time that Shimano grabs you? Where does it go? There's a pier right there. It's going to drive into the water. Why is there no sound? You can't hear it driving. You can't hear him throw Kiryu. What the fuck? Otherwise, I don't know. That QTE confuses me. But, like, if you fail the QTE, I also think it's very funny. You'll see it later in the fight. I intentionally failed the QTE because I think it looks really funny. I think it's about to come up here. Oh yeah, and I got Shimano down to half health now, so now the chorus of Pray Me is playing, and that's awesome. I really like Pray Me. And oh, watch this. Kiryu just went flying. It's funny. I really like it. I really like this fight. I know I've said that like 3 times, but it's a really solid fight. It's way better than the first Shimano fight, obviously, because that fight was piss easy, and this one, you know, still not incredibly hard, but I think the addition of Sword Shimano and the goons, it helps a lot. But at the same time, you have your own enemies to fight with you. I guess they're not really enemies then. You have your own NPCs to fight with you to really balance out all of the goons that Shimano has. And, you know, sadly, base Shimano is still easy as pie. But, yeah, really solid fight. Good way to cap off the game in its second to last chapter. However, I cannot say the same for Jingu here. Like, what can I say that hasn't already been said about this fight? It's really awful. Like, you know, you got Jingu over there shooting you in the back, and you can't hit him because he's all the way over there. And then you got the goons to deal with, except they have knives and guns, and it's awful, and I hate it, and so does everybody else. Like, they didn't even try to make it better in Kiwami. They just were like, yeah, we'll keep this. It's fine. In fact, I think they probably made it even worse in Kiwami, because, like, I think this section right here has more enemies that are stronger as well, and also, later in the fight proper, the guards that he has with them have a lot more health, and they have a heat mode, so that's fun. But the main difference between the Kiwami version and this version is that you actually get to fight Jingu a little bit here before you get to the helipad, and I think that's pretty neat, because you can just wail on them like this. This is the most usage I get out of the Grab Infinite, and really Jingu deserves it. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I don't know why they didn't bring it back in Kiwami, because his health bar actually appears in Kiwami during this section, but you don't actually get to fight him. I think it's nice that you get an actual one-on-one against him, because, you know, one of the big problems with the fight itself is that he's got the two beefy guards with him that just constantly disrupt you while he's shooting you, getting pot shots from the back. That also has the plus of this version letting you go into the fight with only one Jingu health bar, which is better than having to do two, because especially with the guards with them, it's not fun to be in this fight for very long. Like, even the game lets you have an abundance of healing items right before and inside of the fight itself. It's insane. Speaking of the fight proper, here we are, and as I stated previously, this isn't quite as bad as the Kiwami version in my opinion, but it's still not fun. You can see these two guards who have boss health bars of their own, probably have more health than Jingu does right now, and, you know, healing items in the back because the game knows that you're gonna need them. So at first, I just completely focus my attention on the guards. I know that they get up, and I just try to get some damage onto Jingu. You can't really get much damage on him before the guards get up, but now that they're back up again, I just go back, focus my attention on them again, get them down the second time, and then I can finally start pummeling Jingu, because once again, he deserves it. It's really just not much to it. Like, you know, Jingu's gonna be shooting you from the back. I don't know if he actually throws the bombs like he does in Kiwami. I don't think he does. He's still got that bitch-ass laugh, which you're gonna hear in a little bit. I think after I take down the guards for a second time. Yeah, he laughs like a little pussy bitch, because he is a little pussy bitch. Now that they're down, I finally start focusing my attention on Jingu. But then, something unexpected happens. The guards get back up again. I don't remember them getting back up a second time. They didn't do that in Kiwami. So I just lose my shit and I start focusing on Jingu. I completely disregard the guards, and I'm just like, okay, fuck this guy. I want to beat his shit in. Like, of course, who wouldn't want to beat Jingu's shit in? But now I especially want to beat Jingu's shit in. So even though the guards are on my ass the whole time, I'm just like, I'm gonna knock this guy down with a throw, and then it's time to just do the ground pound heat action, and that finishes him off. And God, I hate this fight. Thank God I don't have to do this again until Kiwami. Here we are, the final boss, Nishiki. Yeah, this boss is pretty awesome. I really like it, but I do enter it with very low health, so I have to go in with a very specific strategy. So I run up, full combo, then grab and do the square grab combo. Then I go and do the ground pound heat action. And once Nishiki gets out, once it finishes, you slam him through the window. And I go into this square room over here. Now, Nishiki's going to be in heat mode at this point. And while Nishiki's in heat mode, he has super armor, and I'm pretty sure his attacks also go through block. But you can negate his heat mode by attempting to grab him. He'll throw you off of him, but he'll also go out of heat mode. So then, all you have to do is dodge or block one of his attacks, then grab him, throw him down with the square, and then do another heat action. Now, Nishiki has this QTE here, where you can actually deal a significant amount of damage to him. And I've noticed that these games, the Yakuza games, as the series went on, QTEs went from past the QTE to not deal damage to yourself, to past the QTE to deal damage to the boss. Most of the early QTEs don't have you actually dealing damage to the boss if you complete them. This is the exception to that rule. It does a lot of damage to Nishiki, and he actually gets up, does the wake-up grab, and does another QTE, which finishes him off very short, because this boss only has 2 health bars, but oh well. That's it. Goodbye. 10 years in the joint made you a fucking pussy!